And welcome back to my channel. Today we are continuing our exploration of the 97th Academy Awards, 97th Oscars, and trying to see exactly why certain films should have won Best Picture that were nominated. I am excited for this video because I loved this film. I thought it was so fun. I thought it was so interesting. And if you want to see what I've said about other nominees and why I think they should have won, I'll leave a playlist linked somewhere here in the video and down below. Based on the Robert Harris novel of the same name, Conclave follows cardinals from all over the world as they are summoned to the Vatican to vote for the new pope, as his predecessor just recently died. With the popular cardinals having a range of views on how the church should be run, who becomes pope will have dramatic results. Just because you are a man of faith does not mean you follow in his footsteps to get that position. Starring Ralph Fiennes, Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow, Isabella Rossellini, Lucian Mismati, Carlos Diaz, and Sergio Castellitto. Besides its Best Picture nomination, it also received nominations for Best Actor for Fiennes, Best Supporting Actress for Rossellini, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, Best Film Editing, Best Production Design, and Best Costume Design. It walked away with a win for Best Adapted Screenplay. Now, I am not Catholic. I am not familiar with the faith. I've never been raised as Catholic, so the idea of electing a new pope and the process that goes about that is something that was like a completely foreign concept to me. In my lifetime, there have been 3 papal conclaves. The first one happened when I was 9, so like understandable why I didn't know what the heck was going on. The second one was in 2013, I believe, when I was a junior in high school. So probably should have known what was going on, even if I wasn't, of the faith. And then the most recent one with the election of Pope Leo, and I knew every single detail of how this went on. Now, is it kind of silly for a film like this to get me interested in actual real world events, something I should probably have a decent understanding of how that happens? Maybe, but I also think that is a great reason why we should have more films like this. I became so much more curious about the actual process and who was going to be elected, and surprised at how a lot of the potential cardinals to be pope, a lot of the front runners were kind of mirror images of a lot of the characters in the movie, which is really crazy to me. I think that having a movie like this piques the curiosity of people like me who are either not Catholic or do not know anything about how a pope is elected. And the fact that it's able to garner interest, I think, is really telling of the film itself. I think anytime a film has the impact of where you want to be more invested in what is happening in the world around you, I think is an amazing testament to it. And there was also just like a fun kind of like pop culture-ness of everything that was happening when the film was released, and kind of like when the new pope was being elected, that it kind of appealed to more widespread of people instead of just like film audiences. From what I understand about this portion of like your religion, to be a cardinal or to be like a father, I believe they're called fathers, you have to give up essentially everything in your life and only be devoted to God. You cannot marry, you cannot have children, you have to just be a man of faith and just be wholly devoted to God. These men are supposed to be some of the most respected and morally correct people that we can look up to as individuals. We should see them as just good guys because they have given up so much to be one with the person that is going to help determine how we should run our lives, essentially. But we see in real life, as we do with this film, that just because you are in a position where you are following in the footsteps of the Lord, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are doing it well. Just because you are a man of God does not mean you are always following in his teachings. The film was first described to me as Mean Girls at the Vatican, which is a fantastic description for any film if you just compare it to Mean Girls. And that's mostly kind of true, especially, I think it's mostly because of the scene, in Mean Girls, the scene with the burn book as Regina photocopies it and then sends it all over the school, and so that way everyone knows what people have been saying about each other. But there's a scene where they literally photocopy documents in Conclave and then distribute it out to all of the cardinals, proving that, I believe it was John Lithgow's character, was like doing some shady shenanigans. And you know what? I love that, because it was able to bring, again with this description of Mean Girls, kind of bring the humor of that whole idea, but then be able to relate it back to how these are supposed to be morally correct men. It's just a really good way of describing how deceptive that these men can be, how they are able to want to use their power and their privilege in a way of being close to the highest honor of being very close to God. I'm assuming in the Catholic faith, the Pope is like the closest person to God. And so they are supposed to be relatively high up and have a lot of power, but what you do with that power is really telling, especially with how you are supposed to be in this position as cardinal or eventual hopeful pope. How are you going to use that position that you have been granted to overpower people that are below you? That is just something that you do not expect to happen, but yet it does. This is not what it means to be a man of God, but there's always something about us as humans that will seek that power, or when we find out that we have some of it, how are we going to use that to our advantage? I think this film also does a great job of showing us what it means to want something versus what it means to deserve something. Rafe Fiennes, his character, is essentially the one, I forget the official name for it, but the one that's in charge of the conclave. So he basically wants to just get in, do his job, and like call it a day. He basically, out of everyone, he does not want to be pope and has stated that multiple times. Even throughout the film, we learn that he has questioned himself and if he even deserves to be in the current position that he is in. And he is the one that keeps seeming to gain more momentum as the film goes on, as more and more votes are taking place. He wants Stanley Tucci, his friend, to be the pope, but because they are like so similar in personality and in what they believe in and which direction the church should go in, it may be hard to pick if you want Stanley Tucci or Rafe Fiennes, but Rafe Fiennes keeps getting all of these votes, and I know I'm calling them by their actor names. I'm sorry, I kind of forget what their names are. I remember some of their names, but no matter what happens, Rafe Fiennes continuously says, I do not want this, but people see him as the best person for this. Stanley Tucci's character is the one that's kind of portrayed as being like the best for this position of pope, because he is the most progressive out of the four like main guys that are kind of up for it. And he's also, so chill throughout the film, or at least the first part of the film, being like, hey guys, it's okay. I don't really want to be pope. I'd be honored, obviously. It's a very high honor. And if I was bestowed upon this position, it would mean the world to me. But like, I don't want it. But later he admits to Rafe Fiennes that, of course, who wouldn't want to be pope? This is the highest position that you can be in the Catholic religion. Anyone would be dumb to not want this, is kind of his framing towards this. And we see that because of this reaction, just like with all the other contestants and all the other contestants, like they're on a game show, with all the other cardinals, that he is potentially just like them, seeking power because that's what they want. They want the power. And as we see throughout this film, wanting and deserving something are two completely different things. If you are able to prove to yourself and your peers that this is something that you do not want, but you feel as though it is the best if you are in this position, that's what I think your true meaning and soul are going to come through with this. People want to follow those who they know have their hearts in whatever we are looking for, whether it's being Pope, whether it's being president, whether it's being just in charge of a club that you run at school. I don't know. But people want to see that when your heart is in it, when you care about things, that's when you know that you are the right person for that job. And in the end, do we think it led to the correct Pope? I guess that's for you to decide after you watch the film. I think this film's ability to take something that could be boring, like a conclave, that people who don't keep up with real world issues as much as they probably should, like myself, I think having a film and this ability to intertwine this contemporary drama but also make it feel thrilling with humor in it as well is an amazing feat of creativity. This is a film that can be played for generations to come because it does have timely messaging, not just for our current landscape because the book was written about a decade ago, but also just because of what we see when history repeats itself. And like I said before, a lot of what happened in this film, or at least a lot of the individuals in this film, had real life kind of counterparts unknowingly, just because of how easy it is to predict what can happen. But I don't know, it's just something about how just meticulously well thought out and crafted everything was put together. I think it just makes for an amazing time that, again, could be very boring, but make it interesting, make it fun. And I absolutely loved it. I loved it from start to finish, when we figure out that the Pope is dead, to how we, or who we ended up picking for the new Pope. And that is why I think it should have won Best Picture at the 97th Academy Awards. Also, like, Ralph Fiennes, can he please just get like an Oscar win? That's all I want. That's all I want.